Hi there, my name is Andy Farquharson and I'm your host on Alternative Exit, the podcast dedicated to educating small business owners about the possibilities, benefits and challenges of transitioning to an employee ownership model. Did you know that there are over 200 million SMEs around the globe with an owner that will be retiring within the next 10 years? Many of these owners will never actually find a buyer for their business, forcing them to close their doors, wreaking havoc on their employees and the communities. There is an alternative. This show will explore different forms of employee ownership and the best practices for a successful transition. Each episode is going to feature interviews with experts on employee ownership, business owners who've successfully made the transition, and consultants who've helped facilitate these changes. Okay, now let's get on with the show. Hello everyone and welcome to The Alternative Exit. Today's guest, we have Eric Strickland. Now, Eric is a really, really strong leader in the EO space. He's the CEO of 3LS, which is a purpose-driven group of 18 employee-owned companies with nearly 700 employee owners across 5 states in the US. He has a strong background in human and health services and founded 3LS back in 2015 to unify mission-led organizations around one goal, empowering good, which we're looking forward to diving into more during the pod. So he comes with a strong numbers focus, being a former CFO and is very much a systems-minded social entrepreneur. So he's built micro impact-first companies like Hope Nation, Sigbee, and launched the OmniVision's ESOP. We're going to talk about that connection a little bit later, and helped lead the employee ownership movements nationwide. So Eric, welcome to The Alternative Exit.
Thanks so much, Andy, and thank you for that warm introduction. It's always funny hearing someone else talk about you. So,
absolutely. Well, look, I'm just glad that I got most of it correct. Like, please let me know if I got any of it wrong. But
that was perfect.
There's so much of your experience that is really going to open up a lot of opportunities for us to be able to go and take this conversation. But I think the part I'd really love to start with is sort of the journey that you took with. You had OmniVisions, which was effectively the precursor for 3LS today, and you took that to an ESOP model. I'd love it if you could talk about like a little bit of the genesis of why that was important for OmniVisions at the time, and what were the decisions you were thinking about as you were taking that journey.
Yeah, I would love to unpeel that onion. It's kind of an interesting employee ownership journey for sure. I've been with the organization now for 20 years, here in just a couple of weeks. So when I joined OmniVisions back in 2005, I came as the finance guy. I had more hair back then. It was great.
Didn't we all?
Yeah, exactly. So I started as the finance guy, and working in this human service organization that is filled with people that are out taking care of families and putting families back together, and giving everything that they have, to the people that they serve. And that just appeals to who I am as a person and a leader. And we can talk about that kind of stuff later if you want. But
yeah.
But when I got to Omni was already employee owned, and that was despite, an undergrad in economics and an MBA focused in finance. I'd never sort of stumbled across anything to do with employee ownership until I stumbled into an employee-owned company.
That's the story I hear so often.
And it took, it took a while even, for me to really wrap my head around, what does this mean in the context of an ownership structure and how you try to run a business. It made perfectly good sense to me as, what it meant for me as an employee, because,
yep.
I understood those things. That was my academic training. That's also an interesting counterpoint in this organization of, social workers and therapists and clinicians and case managers that, most of those folks did not spend a lot of time in the business school learning about, investments and rates of return. So that brings another interesting twist to employee ownership. But The company was already employee-owned, originally founded in 1991, became an ESOP for the first time in 1997. What led to ESOP number 2, which happened in 2013, is the way that ESOPs are built today is very much around the notion of being able to provide a consistent benefit level to the people that are working in your organization over a long span of time.
Yeah.
So we set up, an internal note with the trustee that has a very long amortization now, so that we can consistently hand out equity to the people that are working here. This first ESOP at Omni back in the 90s was not set up that way, and I wasn't doing ESOPs in the 90s, so I don't know if that was commonplace, but I assume that it probably was. The only note was the bank note, and and Omni was one of those 100+% debt to equity companies at the beginning of their ESOP journey. So my predecessor, the CEO that I really mentored under, he had, conservative guy, conservative business leader, and was, working hard to pay off that bank debt. And the faster you pay off the bank debt, if it's directly tied to the shares, they all get handed out. So, so our first employee ownership plan, we were successful in it, got paid off in just 2012. So not a lot of time.
Yeah.
But then all of the shares, 2007. So all the shares were handed out, and it closed to new participants. So if you fast forward to 2013, we had grown as an organization tremendously in that 6 or 7, 8 year period there, through acquisitions and picking up some human service programs for some other organizations. So as we sort of found ourselves, we were at a place where we had a lot. In fact, the majority of current employees were not participating in the plan.
Okay. What proportion was that sort of back in 2013? Like when
Goodness. We had grown through some program additions. We were, around a 1,400 head count, and we probably had a little less than 300 folks participating in the plan.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Oh, wow.
And it was, we looked at every option. It's how do we restart this? How do we bring everybody in? And we couldn't find a route that worked over any a digestible time frame. It would have taken years and years and years and years to sort of get that started and really benefiting everyone. So we chose to do a bit of a unicorn, and we created a new ESOP to do a leveraged buyout of the original ESOP. And so that's what we did in 2013. And that really, that was the nexus of what's now become 3LS in this organization of, 18 interrelated, even when it doesn't seem like they are from the outside, organizations that are all working together to try to do some good in the world.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, that was the genesis really of 3LS, was that second ESOP, and that opportunity to effectively recapitalize the company.
The first few years of my, real life employment, I was working in a nonprofit organization that focused on child abuse prevention and intervention services. So here's the freshly minted 23-year-old MBA finance guy that goes to work in the nonprofit that's serving kids. And here I am 25, 30 years later, still trying to help kids and families. But how that nonprofit was set up, I was actually paid through the district attorney's office, which then meant that I was a member of the state retirement.
Under the district's nonprofit corporation act.
Don't you love it when they do this? Siri does that.
Yeah. All the technology is trying to help. So I was paid or I was a member of the state retirement plan, and as a young nerdy finance kid, I really, really loved learning about how the state leaders of that retirement plan allocated assets, and how they did it in what I perceived at that time to be sort of cool vertical integration ways. So I was in the state of Alabama, and if you, for your listeners that are golfers, Alabama has this really amazing set of public golf courses called the Robert Trent Jones Trail. It's owned by the retirement system. It was developed by the retirement system, and they essentially, put people's retirement money to work in a way that brought tourism and revenue and visitors into the state. And so launching that second ESOP in 2013 was the nexus of moving toward creating 3LS, because I knew as a finance trained kind of guy, and trust me, I can't do any math anymore, so it's just all theory in my head at this point. But I knew that it's just not the best idea to try to build a nest egg for your people that are out working in the organization and only have that value come from one place.
Yeah.
And so 3LS is really just a giant vertical integration play. It's the simple notion to me of, we're a big organization, we have a lot of infrastructure, but even at our scale, we don't have everything we need. We have to buy a lot of stuff to run this organization. So if you just look at the operating expense section of the P&L, and then you start looking at all the companies, it's going to start making sense, because we're just essentially taking all those things that cost money and trying to figure out how we can turn those into businesses that create value for our employee owners, and also create value for the organizations that they serve. So that's the whole secret. It's just where do we spend the most money in the operating expense section, and let's figure out how to turn that into a company that makes money.
I love that. It's always I've always loved the vertical integration plays to be able to do that. I mean, it's such a clear way, like, of how you can optimize that. I mean, what's the Bezos quote? Is it like your profit's my opportunity? Like it's just that you're doing that on your own income statement of the
exactly.
outcome. Yeah, very cool. And where did the name come from for 3LS?
That's you see this little three-legged stool that's sitting up here over my shoulder. That's what 3LS stands for, three-legged stool. And the business philosophy that we have in the organization, and that we had adopted from my predecessor, is this whole notion of the running the organization around the concept of a three-legged stool. As we've built and expanded, we've kind of reframed that, but essentially it's all about people, purpose, and performance. And so when we created 3LS to give us really the organizational space, so to speak, to be able to do this vertical integration without trying to figure out how to tell the story of, why does a foster care or behavioral health company also have a marketing company that also has a insert blank here? We knew that we wanted to set that up in a sort of holding company, so to speak, manner, so that everyone can have their own identity and we can all be threaded together through our common association of being change makers.
Yeah, fantastic. And so I'd love to delve into I guess a little bit more of that management philosophy that you talked about. Because as you've been acquiring these companies, I'm presuming the majority of the ones that you acquire have not been employee owned. So you're bringing them in.
That's a very good assumption on your part.
Okay, very good. So let's sort of go on that from sort of two lenses. The first lens I'd like to sort of delve into is thinking more about what is the biggest mindset shift that you need to see from the leadership teams of these companies that are coming across this transaction to then be able to operate and thrive within employee ownership?
Employee ownership is, I don't know that anyone is familiar with employee ownership until they get to an employee-owned company. I mean, and that's part of our challenge in the employee ownership space is that it's not top of mind for folks when they think about an exit strategy. So there's a lot of there's a lot of intentionality around helping folks understand this employee ownership structure and how that benefits them, and how we probably think about business a little bit differently than they did before the acquisition. But generally speaking, we've probably completed well over 20, probably even closer to 25 acquisitions in the 20 years that I've been with the organization. Most all of those were not employee owned, and all of those were human service organizations.
Okay.
And that lays on another layer of complexity when it comes to understanding how all of this ESOP thing works, because those professionals are just amazing folks, but they didn't get into this world of work that they do because they were worried about their, retirement or their own wealth. They got into here because they're passionate about helping people.
Yeah.
So we really try to build a belief and understanding with folks that, this is not about everybody making a whole lot of money. This is really, we have that kind of opportunity, but it's really about giving these workers a path to security in their future for themselves and their families that they're not going to get at any other organization doing that same work.
Yeah.
And, if you look at that part of the organization, the typical largest, competitor, so to speak, for talent is government entities. And, 25 or 30 years ago, they had great pension plans, but those are sort of going by the wayside and really switching to be sort of hybrid, K plans that have some defined benefit pieces or some enhanced matching pieces. And I think it's the recognition that pensions or defined benefit plans are perpetually tough. ESOPs are also perpetually tough, but in a different way. And so we spend a lot of time trying to help folks understand that keep doing the good work that you're doing, and just know that if we can all do it a little more efficiently, then we can put security in everyone's ESOP state.
Yeah. So I'm sure, as I said, there's lots of stories from people like that when people find out that they're employee ownership, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty and doubt. Hey, great, I've got an ESOP. What does that mean? Why am I at risk? But there's also, it comes, a lot of people go through that process because not only is it create better outcomes for the workers and also enables them to stay in the business longer, but also improves that company performance. How do you make that link for these really purpose-driven folks? They're really sort of they're really focused on the people that they serve. Like, how do you transition them to help them understand that once they do a better job here, that's actually going to help benefit them in the long term? Like, how do you make that connection for them?
Well, That's we've been working on that for 20 years, and we're still sharpening the pencil, so to speak. I think it comes back to the know your audience, right? I mean, these workers, professionals that are out serving, other people. Like I said, they didn't come into this because they had a great retirement plan, right? They came into this to give back. So you've got to really put value creation into a context that everybody really gets, and so that goes back to our three-legged stool piece around purpose and performance. Really, I mean, when you're working with a foster care case, or you're working with, doing case management for a consumer, we know what success looks like. And so what we really want to do is to empower people to have success in taking care of those people, because that's job number one. We'll figure everything else out, but job number one is that we need to take care of these people that we serve. And if we can just do well at taking care of people, the other leaders in the organization can figure out how to translate that to value.
Okay. All right. So you don't, I mean, like there's talk like the likes of like Bo Burlingham and the Great Game of Business talks about sort of narrowing it down, give people a single number, or like
one critical number. Yes.
One critical number. I mean, do you guys work down to that level as well? Or is it more just like, I mean, you did talk about your three legs being people, purpose, performance. You go, hey, you just look after the people. We'll look after and we'll sort of drive the performance.
Yeah. So we've, on that, in that core part of our organization, we don't have a critical key number, but we have a set of key success indicators, and those, it's 10 or 12 items, and they're arranged around the three-legged stool components. But what we're looking for in a foster care program is, are you getting successful discharges?
Yeah.
Are kids stable in their placements? They're not moving around, or they're not going into, other levels of care. Are you recruiting foster families? Because we have to have families willing to open their home to take the kids when they need a home to go to. So are we recruiting enough foster families? And generally, are we growing our program? And we've always said here that that as long as we can get good outcomes, then we want to grow. And when if we can't get good outcomes in a program, then we need to really decide if that is what we should be doing, because the people we serve deserve good outcomes. So if it's, I mentioned in the sort of ESOP-to story, we had gotten to over 1,400 employees, and now we're at half that number. We got out of a couple of service lines that are very important, but just was not our gift.
Yeah.
And so we rehomed them with organizations that had more of whatever they needed to be able to really run those programs successfully and create value.
Okay. So you did talk about, actually, let's sort of think about this a little bit differently. If you think about you're driving a great culture there in your business, and that's so critical to really sort of get some value out of sort of that employee ownership and help people be a part of it, and also for your mission. Investing in culture is so important. How do you? But it's from my perspective, it's also one of the most underinvested elements in many organizations, whether that comes through leadership training or even all the way down to the front lines. How do you think about investing in your culture and ensuring that the three legs of the stool stick and just sort of running through the veins of everyone in the business?
Well, it takes a lot of intentionality to do that, because I think there was a great documentary on Costco 10 or 12 years ago, and I think Senegal said something to the fact that, culture is the most important thing we do here at Costco. And culture is, I think, the most important thing that we have to worry about in our organization, because, you can have bad culture and still get good outcome. But the predictability of that continued success gets really choppy when the culture is not in a good place. And I think that there's also a sort of sweet spot where you want to allow your organization to have and your leaders in the field. We're providing services across a 5-state footprint. If you go in to visit our office in, this city, and you go visit the office in this other city, they're going to feel the same and different at the same time, right? Hopefully you're going to feel very warmly welcomed, and that we're glad that you're here, but they're not going to look like the same store. So it's trying to put enough culture in. So what we do, and what we've been doing now for many years, quarterly town halls. So we host a Zoom quarterly town hall, and we invite all employees in the organization to join those. And now that we're scaling, right, and we're building the other parts of the organization, we're having to think, okay, well, how do we do that now? Does everybody come to every one, or do we have some that are sort of around the operating companies? So we're working through that. But generally, we do these town halls where we are sharing information about what's going on across the organization, sharing, information about, things that impact our folks, like their healthcare benefits or their, open enrollment or, performance evaluations, whatever's going on at the time. We share these updates, and it's not just, thankfully, it's not just me as a one person talking for an hour. We have leaders from all the different groups. We always bring in some stories about things that are happening out in our service programs, and we share that. And then the thing that we do that I thought was just the right thing to do, but some of our newer leaders that have joined the company in the last couple of years were really blown away by it, is that then we just open it for questions.
Love it.
And whatever people type into the question box, one of us answers. And it's really trying to build a level of transparency and a level of trust that we'll answer your questions. I mean, I know that not everything always makes sense to everybody, so we'll do our best to help answer whatever question you throw out there. And I think that willingness on our part to do that helps us build a level of trust around the organization. And you can't do anything culture-wise until you have a level of trust across the group. So now, as we're expanding out, we're sort of thinking through how we do some of those things. I mean, we do, all kinds of different get-togethers at different levels of the organization for different, groups. I'm leaving today to go speak at a little retreat for some of our one of our small teams that works on the service side. So we do a lot of in person. We've started taking our town hall stuff on the road. I mean, it's still virtual, but on the Omni side of the organization, that leadership team is actually hosting their quarterly town halls from a different city. So they're going out as a group and being in another place, still doing the town hall, but also having that sort of together time. So I got to join one of those trips a month or so ago over to see our team in North Carolina. So it's very much we're trying to perpetuate this, strong family-oriented, trusting culture that's really all focused on how, what good got done today.
Yeah. Well, it's that understanding sort of what that having that focus on good seems to be a really common theme, like in all your roles coming straight out of MBA. I mean, there's not many people walking into a not-profit coming out of a newly minted MBA as a minted MBA graduate. So it's obviously a common theme, and it's running through 3LS today. So if we just take this conversation to a slightly different place. I mean, when I speak to a lot of owners about potentially transitioning their business towards employee ownership, they get really concerned about what's going to happen to the innovation engine of the business, the operational drive, which comes from them as the individual. Yeah, and same goes with that innovation. How do you and your leaders there at 3LS continue to drive those centers of operational excellence and innovation that have been the fuel for your growth?
Well, I can really understand that from a selling owner. And when you have built an organization over a period of years from nothing to a place where you can get an exit, and employee ownership is an option for you, which is not the case for every small business. I mean, you've got to have enough scale to really make that work. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of success. And I would say most founders are sitting in the visionary seat and in an integrator seat, if you follow EOS. And they're also filling 14 technical roles. They depending on what the business does, they probably have technical expertise in that area. And it gets to a place where I think those founders don't know that it's going to keep going. And so the first best thing about ESOPs is that founders don't have to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, let's turn this into an employee-owned company. You don't have to do it all today. And even if you choose to do it all today, that doesn't mean you have to go home. You can still work here. So for us, we've always tried to, ask people for creative input and creative ideas. And really, after spending 25 plus years in the human service world, if you want to find creative people to solve a problem, sit down with social workers and clinicians, because they will come up with super creative solutions on how to address the issues that they're facing. And they do it every day, and they do it on the fly. So in our organization, we do innovation in lots of different ways, right? We've got freedom for our employees to be creative in how they're serving the people they serve. As long as we're not, getting too far off the playing field here, we're open to creativity. And we also give them, training and evidence-based practice tools so that it becomes a scientifically driven art instead of just art.
What does that look like? Because the reason why I want to double click on that is that, look, a lot of people really struggle with that. I mean, I think people can intellectually understand that, like, the people who are closest to the problems can potentially come up with the best solutions. But how do you actually operationalize that is a real struggle.
It's, I would say, yes, it is, especially as an organization grows and you just don't have as much visibility as to what's happening, where the work actually happens. You sort of lose some perspective about what's really happening. I think, in this world, and, I'm really talking a lot about the Omni side of the house. We also have amazingly creative problem solving people that work in our marketing agency and in our, back office, services team. Mm-hmm. But I think that human service I think that ESOPs and human services go together about as good as any metaphor or that you want to throw in here. I mean, peanut butter and jelly, or RC Cola and a moon pie, whatever it is, the whole notion of employee ownership being paired with human service, I think is tremendous because it just aligns all of the focus on the right area, which is doing right for the people you serve. And if we can do that in a well-run organization, then everyone can benefit from that. But back to innovation, we give those frontline workers, some latitude and some creativity, but we also are training them in evidence-based practice. So it's akin to having a well-trained chef, and you give them a set of ingredients and they have the skills. But if you have 10 chefs, you might get 10 versions of the same chicken dish, but it's all going to have a little bit of its own creativity to it. We drive a lot of innovation on the human service side, also around trying to respond to the innovation that our customers are looking for. And by customers, I mean the agencies and organizations and insurance companies that pay us. We go to industry conferences where idea sharing is happening. So all this standard kind of stuff. I think the thing that we do differently in innovation is that we think about that as an asset allocation problem.
I love it.
If I get back to we're running a retirement plan here. We actually became anchor LPs in a private equity fund that focuses on tech-enabled behavioral health care and value-based healthcare businesses, early stage. That has exposed us to more innovative ideas in the last 3 years than probably the last 15. There's just so much great edge-pushing things happening in that space, and we'll see how all that settles out in the geopolitical world. But just it's a great investment for us because it's very much aligned with what we do every day, and there's overlap in a lot of these companies that we're looking at or investing in through the fund with work that we do. We've made additional investments in some companies that were very mission aligned with us, but not quite ready for fund investment. So we've got a few angel investments in some companies, and that's giving us exposure to AI applications in this space, and it's giving us entree into the notion of digital therapeutics. Prescription drug computer games to treat mental health disorders. So that's part of innovation. We're within that. We've acquired a couple of these early stage businesses, and we're pulling all of these technology pieces that we've gotten as part of those acquisitions into our own group that we're calling 3LS Innovations. And they will sort of mission one is to build technology solutions that empower the team at Omni to be more efficient and effective in their work. And then goal 1A is then let's take that to these other agencies that are out doing the same stuff. The best way for us to drive good in the world is not to try to do it all by ourselves. We need to figure out how to help everybody do more good in the world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that approach of investing in those innovations as well, a little bit earlier in their cycle. Really sort of bring that into the business. That's awesome, and also creates a lot of diversification as well in the retirement fund. So yeah, that's on both sides. Really fantastic touch. So as we think about that retirement fund, you've been working and running ESOP business and growing, and evolving this ESOP business for the last 20, 25 years. What are some of the common myths about ESOPs and employee ownership that you find yourself regularly hearing and needing to debunk?
I think one of the biggest challenges, and we talked about it a little earlier, is that we just bill employee ownership as complicated. And And the reality is that on a technical level, 401k plans are complicated.
Yeah, totally.
And so is the dinner order when I take my wife and daughters to, to the restaurant. It's complicated. Everything's complicated. I think that we have to lead with a better version of that story. And it's like the moon speech, right? I mean, before this decade's out, we're going to put a man on the moon. I mean, I worked in Huntsville, Alabama, where the Saturn V rocket was developed. I actually did my 1 year of having a real job. I worked in the defense contractor that supported those kind of projects. It would have been really easy for Kennedy to go on the air and give a 4-hour lecture on how hard it was going to be to put a man on the moon, or you can just say, we're going to do this and we'll figure it out. So I think that myth number one is that it's complicated, it's expensive. That's another thing that you hear often from sellers. Well, it's really expensive to set up an ESOP. It's also expensive to pay a broker and sell your business.
Yeah.
So it really, to me, the narrative needs to move to, these selling owners. The silver tsunami, so to speak, is that if you really want to see your business, what you've built, have the best opportunity to continue to grow and thrive, then take the people that you trust to do the work every day and let them go do it. Mm-hmm. And if you want the maximum size check that you can get, so you can get to whatever your retirement destination is the quickest, then hire a broker and start packing for the beach. I just don't understand why selling owners that have invested so much personal capital into building their business get to the end and say, I'm just ready to be done and I want a check. And so I think that's a big myth. From the employee, side, I think one of the challenges with ESOPs and the way that we set up ESOP plans is that it just takes several years for someone's ESOP statement to finally become meaningful.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're 24 years old and you've come to work in our organization as a case manager, and you're out doing the work that you want to do, take care of kids and families, and you're making, that first salary, first, it's going to take you a period of time of working here, and we actually shortened our entry window to 6 months and 500 hours of service.
Wow!
Because we want people to get it faster. We want it to be real to people sooner. But there's some period of time before you even get in, and then usually, because plans run on calendar years, unless you started at exactly the right day, then it's another year before you get your first statement that you're 20% vested in. So, I mean, you could have 24 months or more before you get that first tangible statement, and then it has a number that is not trivial, but it's also not earth-shattering.
Especially when you can't access it for such a long time as a younger person. So you want it to be meaningful and you want it to be able to have an impact.
I just don't think that most folks, regardless of industry, are thinking much about what they're going to do in 40 years.
Yeah,
they're thinking about what they're going to do on Friday night. And do I have enough, left over after I've paid all the bills to go out with my friends and have a pizza and see a movie? whatever the young people do these days. So.
I'm still waiting to get the memo as well. If they're doing different things than I was doing. They're really great examples, Eric. And I think that's a great message that I think we all need to rally around, that we've got to start changing the narrative around employee ownership. And hopefully that's sort of a big part that we're hoping that people sort of take out of this podcast as well. And that's such a great example from someone who's been there and experienced it and really felt it. And so, yeah, that's awesome. But as we come to the end, Eric, what I like to do for all of our guests is ask them a fast round of 3 questions. So I'll just ask you these questions. You offer a quick response. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay. Who is the leader that you most admire in employee ownership?
I would say today that I really admire what Pete Stavros is doing.
Okay.
And, Jack Stack and The Great Game of Business is, I think a required reading list for, anybody that's helping lead an employee-owned company. And the folks over The Great Game of Business are terrific. Corey Rosen at NCEO is a stalwart in this world for us. But I think that Pete is bringing the notion of employee ownership to a new visibility level.
Yeah.
And, I know the way that they're doing, employee ownership inside of their PE deals is different than an ESOP, and that's okay. I mean, ESOP is one avenue to employee ownership.
Totally.
There are plenty of other options, and that's a great one. The real motivation, I guess, for me, and is that there's just this huge gap of wealth and not wealth, and we need people that have a lot of visibility to help move the mindset toward the notion that businesses do better when their employees have a stake in the outcome. And then we can figure out what that stake in the outcome looks like. It could be an ESOP, it could be phantom equity, it could be direct purchase, it could be a co-op. I mean, there are plenty of options. We just need to figure out how to make sure that the employees have a stake in the outcome.
Yeah, and amplify that. 100% agree. So on to the next one. What is your favorite resource on employee ownership?
Have to be the NCEO.
Yeah. Love it. Very popular answer, that one. A great resource for me as well. And then finally, Eric, what would you say to a business owner who's sitting on the fence regarding a transition to an employee ownership model?
I would say believe in the people that you've brought in to help you make this business successful.
Yeah.
And if you really want to leave a legacy, sell it to your employees and let them continue what you've built and let them take it to the next place. That's brilliant. I love that focus of believe in the people that you brought in. This is your last chance to back yourself, by backing the people. So yeah, awesome. Eric, thank you so much for sharing. This has been a fantastic podcast. It's a shame we need to bring it to an end, but really, really appreciate your time. Where can people go if they want to learn more about your story and the story of 3LS and what you guys are building there? Well, you can follow along on LinkedIn. You can find me there or just hop over to our website, 3ls.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn through there. But and I'll put some links in the podcast notes for people too. That would be great. And Andy, thank you so much for having me today. This has really been terrific. Brilliant. Eric, thank you so much for joining us on The Alternative Exit. Have a great day. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to continue learning about employee ownership as an alternative exit, head across to abettermonday.me for additional links and resources. You can also make sure to subscribe or follow along in your favorite podcast app, and be sure to leave us a 5-star review.